to be showing you the new features that were just released in Revu 12.5. Now, our point releases typically have to do with Studio, and this one is no exception. And Studio is our real-time collaboration, but it also houses a light document management system. So, really excited to show you some of the great changes that have been made. I'm going to do a little brief overview of Revu for anyone who is not familiar with the software before we jump into showing what those new features are. Again, I'm happy to be here presenting with Managed Design, a great reseller of Bluebeam software. And as Grant mentioned, he is the sales director over at Managed Design, and we're really excited to be showing, new customers as well as existing customers the changes that we've been making to the software. If you have questions throughout this process or throughout this webinar, please feel free to use the chat window. I have a colleague of mine, Christine Saminsky, who is from our Account Services Department, on the line and ready to answer any questions that you might have. Once we get to the end of the presentation, I'll go through and see if there's any questions that we can sort of open up to the whole audience, just so that everybody can take advantage of hearing what those questions and answers are. So without further ado, let's get started. So I just briefly want to go over an introduction to Bluebeam, again, for any of our users who are new to the software, or as a refresher to those who have been using our software for a little while. Just a brief overview of our products, and then we'll jump right into the software so that we can start talking about the new features. So Bluebeam, as a company, has been around for 12 years, and Bluebeam software develops smart, simple PDF solutions for working professionals. Now, PDF is an ISO standard document format, which means that anything that you create in Bluebeam Revu is going to be viewable across all other PDF softwares. So there's no compatibility issues. Our software was built with the technical user in mind because it was actually designed by technical users. Our founders came from the Mars rover project, and were working in CAD programs and needed to be able to get those CAD drawings into a rich format that was easily shareable. And there wasn't anything necessarily on the marketplace, and so they designed Bluebeam, which originally started off as push-button PDF because it simply was a PDF creation. But over the 12 years, we've actually evolved, and through feedback from our customers, as well as users across the country and globally, we've created the tools that you see today. So a really, really powerful product that, again, is used or was built with the technical user in mind, but is flexible enough to be deployed across any industry. Again, with PDF being an ISO standard document format, a lot of people are moving to that as their means of sharing documents and reducing paper. Excuse me. So we've seen a large chunk of architecture, engineering, and construction customers taking advantage of Revu, but we've also started to see a lot of customers in different industries: oil and gas, enterprise customers, legal, healthcare. Anyone that's really using PDF is able to take advantage of Bluebeam Revu. Now, our product comes in 3 different versions, and this is just a really simple chart to sort of give you an idea of which Revu would be right for you. We start off with our standard version, but we like to say that it's anything but standard because it includes all of your PDF markup and editing. It also includes access to Studio, which is our real-time document-based collaboration, and then 3D markups. The standard version also comes with plugins for one-click PDF creation and batch creation from Microsoft Office. And then you move into the CAD version, which just builds on the standard. And the thing that makes it so different is the fact that there is one-click PDF creation and batch creation from programs like Revit, SolidWorks, Navisworks, and AutoCAD. One of the important things to note with the release of 12.5 is that we have some additional enhancements to the Navisworks 2015 support. So 3D PDF creation is now supported in Navisworks Manage and Simulate 2015. And with an improvement to our Revit plugin, there is a new post-processing option that optimizes the PDF creation, and it results in a dramatically smaller file size. And this is for Revit 2014 and above. So again, that CAD version is going to get you those plugins. Then we move to our Extreme version, and that builds again on the previous versions and includes things such as optical character recognition, PDF form creation, and scripting. Excuse me, one of the things that was actually released in Revu 12 that's only available in our Extreme version is excuse me, batch hyperlinking, and that's a functionality that I will show you as we go through the demo today. So one of the things that we hear a lot are the questions about what makes Bluebeam so different, what makes Revu so different from other PDF softwares that are on the market. And this slide really speaks to that. There's 5 key features that we always talk about when it comes to Revu versus other PDF softwares, and those key features are what really differentiates our product. So the first one is in our intuitive interface. And again, it goes back to speaking about the fact that the software was designed by technical users for technical users. So a lot of the functionality that you're going to see within Revu is very familiar to customers who are used to working in CAD programs and that type of thing. It's a lot of the little things that we put in there that just make your life a whole lot easier as you're going through and trying to navigate through your PDF documents. Our easy-to-use markups. One of the best things, the best comparisons that I can make is in other software, it takes 5 clicks to put one cloud on a document, as opposed to Bluebeam Revu, which allows you to place a cloud in 1 click. So if you think about, the time that you spend clicking through different menus to try and put your different markups, our easy-to-use markups are definitely a time saver. And that flows right into our innovative tool chest. The ability for you and your customers to be able to create custom tools and then save those tools to a tool chest that can be shared with multiple people, whether you put it up on a network drive or you send it out in an email so that everybody that's working on a project is working with the same set of tools. It's a real time saver being able to have one administrator set up those tools and disseminate it to everybody that's working on the project so that you have consistency throughout the life of your project. Our advanced markup tracking, this is what we like to call Excel within Revu, and it is columns and filters that you can, for every markup that is being placed on your drawing. Revu is keeping track of all of those and the metadata that's associated with it, so timestamps, the stamp of the person who has placed those markups. All of that information is going to be tracked for you in that advanced markup tracking. And then it can easily be exported to a CSV or a PDF file as your meeting notes or just as a record of everything that happened throughout your project. And last but definitely not least is our real-time collaboration with Studio. Again, this is one of the key differentiators between Bluebeam Revu and other PDF softwares, and really the focus of this demonstration, because again, our point releases really are mostly about Studio and the enhancements that we've made to that product. So really excited to get to show you those. Studio does come, as I mentioned, in 2 different formats. There is projects and sessions. Projects is our light document management system, and sessions is the real-time document-based collaboration. And I'll be sure to point out those differences when we get into the software, which is right now. So all I'm going to do is hit escape on my keyboard, and you'll notice that I've actually been in Revu this entire time. So this is our interface, for those of you who are not familiar with it. It's pretty straightforward. We have all of these menu bars and ribbons up across the top. So as I scroll through, you'll notice that the icons are all changing. These 5 icons over here, though, in the right-hand or the top left-hand corner never change. Those are icons that are, really important, and we think that those should always be available. Everything in the software is, or the way that the software is oriented and set up, is all fueled by this little guy here, and he is our profiles manager. This service comes preloaded with all of these different profiles, but you have the ability to go ahead and create your own custom profiles. Again, much like the tool sets, being able to set up a view that you can then share with multiple people. Really quick and easy. Once it's created, you can just click on your icon and you can see that you get your export option right here. So I'm in my design review, and that gives me, the different icons and menus that I like to see. But if I wanted to, I could go ahead and change to my construction profile. You'll notice that review has completely changed and reoriented itself, and I now have a lot more options and more, menus that are available. All of this is easily customizable. Using right-click, which in review is your best friend because it's always going to give you a context menu and show you what options you have available. So I can go ahead and I can turn on and off these different menus depending on what I'd like to see. And then again, if I wanted to, I could save this as a custom profile, export that, and save it with multiple people. So now that we're in here, one of the biggest things is our file access. Or rather tab access, and that's this upside down orange triangle. And that's going to give you all of the key features within review so that you don't have to remember where those things are. You can just come up here and you can click on them, and review will open it in the appropriate panel for you. So one of the great ones that we have is actually called file access, and this is really great because it allows you to save and rather pin files that you use on a regular basis. So rather than having to go through and find the folder and dig down to open up the different files that you require, simple one click you can open those up with those files that you use on a very regular basis. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and show you just a couple of the things that we do here, such as split screen. So this is the ability for you to have multiple screens open, and you can do this up to 16 times. And this is the same drawing, but if I had multiple different drawings, I've actually got this sync option on, and that will mirror the view that I have in one window to the other. So it makes for easy navigation through my documents. So if I was looking at two different revisions, I could very easily navigate through and see what the differences are. Again, you can split your screen up to 16 times, both vertically and horizontally. So makes it nice and easy for you to open up different windows and see what's available. The other great thing is, again, using that right-click functionality, the fact that I can open up web tabs. So without having to leave the program, I can go ahead and open up a web tab, look for building codes. I'm looking for New Hampshire because that's actually where I'm based out of. Excuse me. And so I can go through and I can see what the building codes are. I can check against my specifications and against my drawings. So again, just nice and easy, really powerful. Try to keep things as simple as possible. So let me go ahead and close out some of those because I want to get started showing you some of the great tools that were released with Revu 12. And all right, so we're going to go ahead and open up my combined set. Now, typically when you are getting your documents, you're hopefully lucky enough to get them and they are named correctly. They have a great naming convention, but as you can see, this combined set that I've received over here on my thumbnails tab, I can scroll through and I can see that all of these pages actually have a completely different naming convention. There's no rhyme or reason to the way that these things are put together. So one of the simplest things or one of the best things to do before starting a project is to go through, and set up my files so that everything is working correctly, just so that it's easier to navigate through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and up here I have this create page labels. And I'm going to use a section of my document. Oops, that is not what I wanted to do. Let's try that again. Page region. Well, it's because I am, apologies, in the wrong viewing mode. There we go. So as you can see down here, there are two different viewing modes. There's scrolling pages and there's one full page. This is part of the intuitive interface, and so you can see now that I have this set properly, this large format document is going to navigate the way that I want it to, which is by using the scroll wheel I can zoom in and out, and clicking and dragging I'm able to pan. So now that we have that set up correctly, let's go ahead and try that automark again. So I'm going to tell the system that there are two different sections that I want to grab to name these pages. The first one is the drawing number. And then by adding to staff, I'm going to add a second section. And I know that on all of these pages, I have a title sheet, the drawing title, and I have the drawing number. So these are items that I'm going to include in my page labeling. I've added VCTC, which is just Valley College Training Center, as my suffix, but I could add whatever I wanted to. And now I'm going to click OK. And you'll see that review is going to go through. And really quickly, over here in my thumbnail tab, you'll see that now all of my sheets actually have proper naming convention. So the drawing number and then the drawing title, and that is how all of my pages are now named. So that was nice and easy. But now I have this index that has all of my sheet names, and wouldn't it be great if I was able to go through and actually hyperlink all of these together so that it was, again, just that much easier to go through and navigate the documents. So I'm going to go up here to File and Batch Link, and I'm going to add my open files, but get rid of that webinar. And again, we're going to tell Review that we want to select a page region, and that is how we're going to hyperlink our drawings. So again, coming down here to the drawing number, I'm going to grab my rectangle, click OK, and you'll see now when I click on Generate that Review is going to go through and it's going to match up all of the hyperlinks. So every time it sees A000 in a page, it's going to hyperlink it back to this title page. Now, I actually want to go ahead and change that, and I want to make this, I want all of these to link back to the title page. So I'm just going to go ahead, change this label to the project number, because that is the same across all of these. Now I can go ahead and click Run. And you'll notice that in just a couple of seconds, Review is going to go through and create 166 hyperlinks for me. I'm going to go ahead, finish, and close that, and you'll see here that I have it set so that I've highlighted so that I can see that all of these have been done, and now all of my documents have been hyperlinked together. So if I go over here, let's just see, we'll go to our A201. I can scroll through, and not only was that hyperlinked, but I've got this elevation detail that I can jump to, which then brings me to A700, which is another detail that's been hyperlinked. So now this is a full working set of easily navigable drawings. Now, the one thing that I will say is that this is now a large combined set, so it's 35 pages altogether. And one of the best practices that we always talk about is extracting those pages and creating a separate file, for each of these pages. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because it makes it easier for everyone to go ahead and navigate through these documents. We'll go ahead and put this in here. And Review is now going to extract all of these so that when I upload this or when I'm sending this out, I don't have a single set of 35 pages where only one person can be working on, each of these sets or this entire set. I actually have it broken into separate pages, and you'll see, once I go back here and show you the folder, that I now have all of these files in much smaller files. So for someone who is working on a tablet or working on an iPad out in the field, they no longer have to worry about there being this large set that they have to try and open. They can open up one page at a time. So now that we have our document all ready to go, our project is ready to go, we are ready to move into Studio. And as I mentioned, there are these 5 icons up here, and Studio is one of them that never goes away because we think that it's one of the most important features that we offer. So I'm going to click on Studio, and you'll see that it's actually opened up in my right-hand panel. So this is Studio, and this is where you would go ahead and, oops, apologies, opening things up by mistake. This is where you would come to start a new session, or if you had sessions that you were already attending. Again, you can see I've got sessions that I have started as well as sessions that I've attended. So I'm able to go in and I can join those. It gives you all of these settings here. So if you happen to know, someone could give you a studio ID. Each session is given a specific ID that you can then share with people and have them join, or you can send them an invitation and have them join that way. So what I'm going to do, as I mentioned, we've got projects and sessions. So we're going to start off in a project, and projects are a light document management system. So it's great because it gives you the ability to upload not only PDF files, but Word files, Excel files. Any kind of file that you could possibly need can be uploaded into this project. And it's an easy way for you to give access to project team members, access to all of the different files and things that you need throughout the life of your project. You can see here I've got some Word documents, excuse me, some image documents, as well as PDFs, and then even an Excel file. Now, the files that will open in Review are, of course, the PDF, because that's the space that we work in. But if you click on any of these other options, so any of the Word files or image files, it's just going to open up in the native program. Important to note that if you're inviting others to a project and they do not have those programs, these items will not open for them. So we have all of our documents uploaded, and I actually have taken these extracted sheets from this combined set, and I've loaded them all into this project. So you can see here that I've got, excuse me, my A201. I'm just going to go ahead and open that, and actually let me just close this combined set so we can make some more room. So I've got my A201, let's open up A202, and how about A300? Great. So now I have all of these documents open, and you'll notice that I've got these little lock symbols. That's because this is a check-in and check-out type of situation when we're talking about projects. So right now, these are read-only. So you'll notice none of my tools are available. I'm not able to add any clouds or callouts or anything because these are in locked mode. In order for me to make any changes, I'm going to need to go ahead and check those out. So I can right-click on that tab and check that out, and you'll see now that I have this red check mark, and that denotes that this file has now been checked out, and I now have the ability to go ahead and add clouds, callouts, whatever I might want. So let's just go ahead and we'll put one here. Excuse me. So I can go ahead and now this is locked for editing. So anyone else that comes into this project is able to see this document, but they would see the server copy. So they would see anything, this call out here that was on there prior to me checking out this document and adding my own cloud. That's what they would see. In order for these changes that I've just made to go back, I would need to update the server copy, which would allow me to send back these changes and put in a comment. So we're just going to say added cloud and check that in. But you'll notice that I actually still have the file checked out. So now when someone comes in and they're looking at this file, they'll actually be able to see the changes that I have made, but they still won't be able to edit anything. Editing will happen, or the ability for them to edit will happen once I check this back in. I'm going to skip the comment because I didn't change anything else. And now you'll notice that I'm back to that lock, and this denotes that I am now just working on looking at the server copy, and it's a read-only copy. So this is really great because, again, you have the ability to invite several different people. I've got all of these settings here. So I can manage the users that have access. So you'll notice here that I've got Christine Saminsky in there several times, many different email addresses. And I have set some of them to allow and some of them to deny. Now, the permissions tab is really important because this is where you, as the administrator, have the ability to change those the permissions that you have for users set in your session or in your project. So on a case-by-case basis, I can come through and say that I want users to add files and folders, and this is going to go with everyone. Now, if I wanted to do it for just a specific person, I could go ahead and click that add, choose Christine, and then show that I want her to be able to send files to a session, but only Christine. Everyone else is denied that access. So we really give you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you can set up your projects and who has access to what. So now we've got all of our files in this project. We're working offline. We've sent invitations to different users. And the great thing to note about projects is that there is no storage limit. I'll repeat that one more time because we get the question a lot. There is no storage limit. We use the Amazon S3 triple encrypted cloud, and that is where we house all of our documents for projects, and there is an unlimited space. So a really great solution, again, for customers who don't want to have to spend tons and tons of money on a document management system. Projects comes with every license of Revu. So the typical workflow would be that I would upload all of these project files. I would have multiple people coming in, making changes, adding different things. And one of the great things is that I can now go ahead and say I want to have an online session with my contractor, whether it's my mechanical, electrical, plumbing, or all of them. I want to have a session because there's been a revision that's been sent out for this A201, and we need to have a real-time discussion about the changes and what's going to happen. So again, using that right-click functionality, we now give you the ability to add these to a session. I'm going to go ahead and call this Design Review, and that is going to be the name of my new session. And you'll see that Review is now going to change orientation. It's taking that document that I was just looking at with my markups, and it's added it to this new session. And you'll see this is the name that I gave it, and here is the unique ID. So again, if I had users that I wanted to, just on the fly, have them join this session, I could give out this session ID and have them join that way. I can also go ahead and add via email address. So I'm going to choose Sminsky@BluebeamSoftware.com, and it would be great if I could sell. And we'll go ahead and click OK. So now you'll see I have this notification that an invitation has been sent to Christine. She's going to get an email from Studio. Oops, there we go. Allow. That gives her the session ID and allows her to really simply click on a link and join my session. So you'll see now Christine has joined us in this session. And we're both looking at this A201 document together. So in this case, I have design review questions. Christine and I need to, take a look at this and, have a conversation about a couple of things that are going on. So this is where the new Studio features come into play. One of the great things is you'll see down here in the bottom right-hand section, anyone who's familiar with Studio is familiar with this record section. But these two new tabs that are showing, these are the changes from 12.5 release. So the record is keeping track of everything that's going on in this document. So you can see that Christine has been adding different, call-outs and markups onto this document. And just as before, all of these are basically like hyperlinks. So I don't need to, try and figure out where Christine was or where these different things are. I can just click on the record, and Review is going to snap me to the entry that she's put in. You'll notice that all of these, control points are grayed out. I am the administrator of this session, but even I don't have the authority to make any changes to the markups that Christine has placed. Now, this markup that was placed prior to it coming into the session, again, is also locked because that was placed prior to it being uploaded into this session. So now I can go through and I can see that, again, Christine has been placing these changes and placing these markups. But you'll notice that down here, I now have this notifications tab. You're wondering, what is that? Notifications is the new ability for users to be able to alert other users in a session to markups that they are placing. And this is key. We've had a lot of people ask us about this kind of functionality. And so what Christine has done is she has sent me this notification. She's alerted me that there is an issue. So it looks like she has a question. Before this gets built out, we need RFI for the door. Okay, so that's great. I've seen this, and I can now, let's go back to this one. I can now go ahead and I can place my own call out and say RFI 1, 2, 3. Oops, again, if I could spell 1, 2, 3 created. And again, by using that right-click functionality, this is where I have the ability to alert attendees. So I can go ahead and, again, this session only has Christine and myself, so I don't have much of a list to choose from. But if I did have multiple people, I would have, obviously those people to choose from. I'm going to go ahead and right-click, and I have now alerted Christine, and you can see here that that has been tracked in this record, that I have seen her question and I have responded. So really easily, really quickly, again, Christine is able to say in the record, thanks, Angela, I will go ahead and revise the drawing. So rather than the typical workflow where we would have to, create the RFI, send out the paperwork, print everything off, wait for shipping, wait for it to come back from different people, all in a matter of a few minutes, Christine and I are able to resolve these issues, and so our project is still on track. Now, notifications is great because it will obviously show up in this notification section, but you can also set the settings for your notification management. So again, just by going to settings, and then it comes up with this manage notifications, it opens up a web tab. And you'll see that this is the studio notification preferences for myself. And so I have that the notifications have been enabled for this session. Now, one thing to note is that typically with a session, these notifications will not be turned on. This is something that you would need to go and apply to your specific sessions. You also have these account preferences. And so this is for, all of your different project sessions, anything that you have attended. So you can choose, again, to have email updates about markup alerts, or you can turn that off. I always think that it's a great idea to turn them on, just because if you don't happen to be in the studio session, at least you'll get the notification on your email, and most of us have our email on our phones, and so we have access to those at all times. You can have a daily digest of all of your sessions and project activities sent. And one of the great things is that it's not just for the session in question, but you can actually open it up and you can see all of the projects and sessions that I have attended. So I have the ability to go through and change the notifications on all of those. The other thing that you can do is that you can actually deny and you can change the settings for the markup alerts. So we all know that one person who's worked with us on a project who likes to send notifications about everything that they do. And quite frankly, I don't want to get spammed 50 times in 20 minutes with all of the emails and all of the alerts. So just as I was able to change the permissions for the attendees, I can actually go ahead and I can change the permissions for just Christine, and I can deny her the ability to send me markup alerts. Now, I can't show you what that looks like on her screen, but I can tell you that when she goes to, let me just cancel out of that, when she goes to alert this attendee, or when she right-clicks, she won't even have this option. This will be completely grayed out, so she won't have the ability to go ahead and do anything. Now, one of the other big changes that we've made is the ability to work offline and have those changes, the changes that you make pending, you can see what's happening with those. So a typical workflow, imagine that I'm on a tablet PC and I'm walking around and I'm doing, punch or backcheck. and I lose my Wi-Fi signal. So typically, this would just happen automatically. I'm going to force the issue and force myself offline. So you can see now that up here I am connected and I'm working offline, but I still have all of the abilities to go ahead and put in my markups, my call-outs. Let's just say change to single door. And you'll notice down here now in my record section that I've got these pending things that are waiting. So this is really great, again, from the perspective of not having to stop your work and stop what you're doing, but really being able to continue working while you're working offline. And then once I get my signal back and I either connect automatically or connect myself, oops, oh, I went into the project by mistake. Let's just see. So you'll see that those pending changes have now all gone, and those have been added to the record section. So it's important to note that, excuse me, the timestamp for the markup showing up on my document are the timestamp at the time that they were, when I came back online and they actually were placed onto this document, not the timestamp from the time that I put it on the drawing when I was offline. Excuse me, we've had a couple of questions about that, and obviously if you're working offline, you don't have the internet connection, we're going to take the timestamp from the time that those markups actually hit the document. But again, you have all of this information in your record, and whether it's your notifications, the alerts about different call-outs or markups that have been placed, everything is going to be listed on there, and also tracked in the markups list. So, again, just complete accountability from all standpoints. Now, as the administrator of this session, I actually have the ability to go ahead and create a report. So I can do a record summary. I personally prefer the PDF package report because what it's going to do is actually append the report to my initial drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and just say session completed 8/14, and we are going to click OK. Then on our desktop. And now you can see how quickly I was able to create this report that not only gives me the documents that I used, but also this really great PDF report that has a complete listing of who attended the session, the documents that were included, any of the notes that I've placed on there, as well as all of the notices, notifications, markups, callouts, everything that happened throughout this record. And again, these are all hyperlinked. So I don't need to try and, figure out where all of these different things and markups and callouts are that Christine has placed. I can just click on them and have Review jump me directly to those markups. So now that we have that report, imagine that your design session is completed. Christine and I have been through this document. She has given me some notifications. Let's just see what this last one is. Need specs for the electrical room. Okay, great. So we are going to go ahead and see new specs. Again, I cannot type. RFI 321. Close that, and I'm going to all right, there we go. So now I've responded to Christine. I'm going to send her a quick message. Let's see. And now Christine will be able to see that I have responded, and she can go ahead and our design review process is complete. So now that I have finished and I've answered all of the questions that Christine has about this project and what's going on, I am going to go ahead and finish this session. As the administrator, I have the ability to do that. I can create a new report, and we're just going to say OK. And review is going to go through. Again, it's going to gather up all of that information. It's going to close out the session for me. And by clicking OK, I now am able to close out of that. And we'll go back to our Valley College project. And you can see that I still have this document checked out. So I'm going to go ahead and, oops. There we go. All right. So now we are back in our session. One of the other great things that we added with Revu 12.5, and this is a really, really big one for customers who are using our Studio Enterprise. For those of you who are not aware, we used to call it Studio Server. It's now been renamed to Studio Enterprise, and it's the ability for you to have Studio loaded on a local server that is behind your own firewall, so that you and your IT people have, the permissions. You have more control over, the settings and the permissions for your organization. Now, what would happen before is that customers would get invited to sessions that were started on a Studio server or enterprise, and they were having issues with logging into that. So what we've been able to do is actually allow customers to manage servers. So if you have a contractor that is working, or you're working with a contractor, say at GE, and they have Studio Enterprise, and you're working with them on an ongoing basis on a project, we are going to add their server. And if this is a server that I'm going to be using on a regular basis, I can just move it up on the list to be the priority. But this is a really simple way for me to be able to jump back and forth between the different Studio. So again, there's the cloud session, and then there's the Studio server session. So just a really easy way for you guys to be able to jump back and forth between those two. And then I can go back to my studio at Bluebeam, and I have all of my sessions and everything is available to me. So just a really nice way, again, for you guys to be able to jump back and forth between the different sessions without having any of the permissions issues that we might have had in the past. That is pretty much the updates for 12.5. Again, there's been some, back-end updates that have been done, but specifically it is all about Studio and about the notifications, about giving you more access and more ability to, manage your alerts and all of those types of things to make your projects that much more seamless. The ability for you to have multiple people all in those sessions alerting you so that you're not having to be in those sessions on a regular basis or constantly to see what's going on with them. I realize that we are a little less than an hour, but that's great. I want to see if there are any questions that have been posed out there that we can sort of talk to. Let's just see. Okay. One of the questions is Studio, how much does Studio cost? And this is a great question, and one of the ones that I always love to answer because Studio is included with every license of review. So whether you're buying a license of review standard or a license of review extreme, you will get access to Studio, both projects and sessions. And one of the great things that I failed to mention about Studio is that the people who are participating in your Studio session do not have to have a paid copy of review. We don't think that technology should be a barrier for people to collaborate together. And so users who just have the free viewer that we offer on our website are able to join into studio sessions, and all of the markup capabilities will open up for them once they get into that session. When they leave the session, reverts back to the free viewer. And you can have up to 500 attendees in a studio session. And that's 500 attendees from all over the world. So whether you are doing a global project or a local project, up to 500 attendees can be in that session. With studio sessions, unlike projects, there is a limit on the storage. Each session can have up to 100 files, and each of those files can be 100 megabytes apiece. And again, just to reiterate, Studio Projects does not have a limit on storage. This is one of the great things. We have customers that have been using projects for several years now and have yet to run out of storage space. So, when it comes to the amount of documents you have for a project, no need to fear. We will be sure that, excuse me, you'll have tons of room to store all of those documents. Let's just see if there are any other questions. And I think we are good. What I'm going to do, though, is actually just open this up, and we'll see. All right. Well, it looks like we don't have any other questions, and we are done a little bit early, so hopefully that works well for everybody. I know that I always appreciate when I can, be done with a meeting a little bit early. So I want to thank everyone so much for your time today. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. Thank you to Manage Design, again, one of our great partners, for being such a great partner. If you have any questions about Revu 12.5 or just Revu in general, please don't hesitate to reach out to Grant and his team. They are extremely knowledgeable about Revu and Bluebeam and would be more than happy to help in any way. Again, thank you so much. We will have this recording. I will provide it to Grant and the team at Manage Design. So if there are any questions, if anybody wants to watch it again, please feel free. Again, thank you so much for all of your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.